Hello and welcome to the Balls Deep podcast. This is the first episode of the podcast itself. I'm joined today with my co-host, Tactical Potato. Say hi, John.
Hey, what's up? Fucking balls deep.
You know what? I still can't get over that name. I just love that name. I think it's going to be perfect. And I've got a really, really good idea for the logo as well. But before we get on to that point... Yeah, I'll tell you about that later. It's a really, really interesting concept without it being, offensive or anything else. But anyway, let's ignore that. My name is Frozenballz, and I'm joined by Tactical Potato today. And this podcast is basically just supposed to be a place where we can share our thoughts. There are so many things that happen on a day-to-day basis, right? And whenever we're streaming or creating content on YouTube or Twitter or whatever else like that, we're not always able to talk about those topics or share that information, and there's a lot of stuff that I would like to talk about. So I figured that a podcast would be a really, really nice long form format to be able to just sit down and have a drink. In this case, for me, it's water today, and just talk about the different things that happen. Like from a content creator's perspective, we see so many different facets of life, whether it's people in the community, whether it's people on the internet, whether it's different news regarding games, or we've had so many different experiences having done all that. I think it would be a really, really nice place to just be able to share all of that kind of stuff. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, this is just an introduction of talking about how we got into content creation, how we got into YouTube and streaming, and all that other kind of stuff as well. So John, how did you get into YouTube in the first place?
Oh man, honestly, I kind of fell into it. I know it kind of sounds stupid. I guess I got lucky with Warframe.
Yeah.
So back in about, I don't know, it was about 25 years of age, I blew my right knee out playing Irish football.
Yeah.
And because I was basically going to be 9 months, so my right knee was in a brace, a plaster cast from my hip right the way down to my ankle for about 5 months. And then after that, I had to be in a medical brace with hinges on the side of it that could only be loosened a small little bit every couple of weeks for another, I think it was 3 months after that. So I was more or less 9-10 months laying up. And while I was doing that, I bought myself a laptop.
Yeah.
Bought myself a good old Dell laptop,
Yes.
And I started playing games. Or I had already been playing games, but I started actually making videos or trying to teach myself how to make videos. So I started first doing Battlefield kind of funny video. Well, not funny videos. The type of videos where you stick the C4 to the Jeeps, or you're laying the trolley kind of videos where you're laying behind someone and you're talking to them in chat without them knowing you're there.
Yeah.
Those kind of videos. And I started to kind of get a little bit. It was just a hobby. I started to get a little bit kind of fed up of doing Call of Duty and Battlefield and that.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my friends spoke to me about trying Warframe. It was in its beta stage at the time, and there was only one
early.
Yeah, there was only one mission you could run, or one tile set you could run on the Corpus one. There was only 4 Warframes, I think.
And then the heck was the best gun, sniper rifle,
shotgun.
Yeah,
literally, yeah. Yeah, so we tried it out. I watched a few streams of it, and I thought, actually, that could be enjoyable. So we tried it out. And I started making a few videos on Rhino and Frost, and it started to get a little bit of traction. So I started to try and teach myself more about the editing process, while also watching other YouTubers that covered different games, like Jack Frags, who, while he was doing Battlefield, also uploaded videos teaching people how to use recording software and editing software, and kind of listening to other content creators talking about always putting quality before quantity, having your videos look good, have the audio levels right, all of that. So I kind of, like I said, I kind of just fell into it because it was a snowball effect of me getting injured, me then being laying up for 9 months playing games, deciding to put a few funny videos on YouTube, to then kind of snowballed into Warframe, and then Warframe got traction, and it kind of just kicked off from there,
Yeah. I know that's a really interesting story, but all I'm thinking right now, when you describe the whole brace situation, all I'm thinking of is that scene of Forrest Gump when he's a kid, and when the girl screams, "Run, Forrest, run!"
Yeah, it would have been, dude. It would have been nice if I could, but it would have been one leg would have moved properly, but the other one would have been pure peg leg. So you would have been,
God.
like imagine if your car had 50 pence wheels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like an octagon wheels.
Yeah.
You would have been running like that because one knee didn't bend because of the brace. So you would have.
Yeah.
It would have been quite stupid looking. But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 9 months of that. 9 months, 6 months of not being able to scratch my leg, and then another 4 months, I think, in the brace. Or 3 months, whatever, in the brace. Yeah, so.
Irish football's a little bit more on the, I guess, aggressive side as well, isn't it? Like, I've never watched it, but just
have you ever
to the
seen Australian rules?
Yeah, I have.
Right, so imagine Australian rules, but with a round ball.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's like full contact. There's no padding, so you're able to fully charge into someone with your shoulder, hit them in the chest, their shoulder, knock them around. There's a lot of physicality to it. There's
it's basically
also
a street ball with rules. A street ball, yeah.
Yeah, but on a very amateur level where the referees are really old and are people who, a lot of time in rural Ireland with the referees, it's people who have never played the game, but the referees get paid maybe €30 to officiate a match, and they might do several matches a week, and then they'll get all of the money for those matches every 2 months. So they could end up making a couple of thousand every 2 months for doing these matches. So it's normally, like I said, it's amateur sport, so the referees are also amateur. So people who have more than likely never played the game, but they're just looking to for a way to make extra money. A lot of them are really unfit. A lot of them are really old, and they let a lot of challenges and tackles and things like that go. You know, and there can be a lot of bias in there as well. So a lot of times you're playing against another team. It's very physical. It's also very wet, very windy. Tempers fray. I know that's hard to take on board with Irish people, but tempers tend to fray when two Irish lads bushed into each other, and next thing it becomes very physical. Fists can fly, and it's quite a rough sport. There is a lot of injuries and a lot of things like that, you know. But yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I think I've done it for 20 years. You know, and now I'm a mummy. My body's in bits.
Yeah, well, you are becoming RoboCop soon anyway, aren't you? So
slowly, yeah. Slowly, bit by bit.
It's like I think when it comes to content creation, I think what you said about falling into it kind of rings true for me as well. Like, I think it was in my second year at uni, I was basically recovering from, I was applying for like placements, right? So in the second year, basically the university said that you can apply for placements, and you can do like a placement year, or you can go into your final year directly without doing a work placement. And I was applying for, like different placements and everything else, but, tragedy sort of struck in the family. We had like 6 deaths in the space of 6 months. And you know what? Dealing with the bereavement and then having to deal with all your lectures and having to deal with all of that kind of stuff, I was like looking for something to distract me from all of the stress that was happening at the time. And I was playing Warframe as well at the time as well. And I just happened to jump on Twitch, and I was like, let me see what this game looks like on Twitch from another person's perspective. And that's when I started watching people on Twitch with Warframe as well. And I think it was one of those things where it was very, very early stages of Warframe on Twitch, because the average viewership was like 100 people at prime time, or 200 people at most. And most of the people in the community knew each other. Like some of the old names you would even remember, like Lunsky, for example, Dimitri, like these were the earlier names of who started off in the Warframe directory. And I used to be
Pookie Panda Bear and people like that as well. Yeah.
So Flare Eyes as well. That was another guy as well who I used to watch as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I was watching them, and then eventually, it was a case that I started watching and I became really addicted to watching people play and then playing with them and teaching them, because I'd played Warframe for so long anyway and I had a lot of experience. So I started helping people out within that as well. And, you kind of end up having your name known within that community. And then eventually I started playing with Dimitri a lot. We became really, really good friends. And then someone said, why don't you stream? I was like, because my internet's terrible and I'm a university student and I can't pay for good internet. As soon as I graduated from my university, I got better internet because I got a job. And then I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Let's see how the streaming thing goes. it's a good way of getting some banter in, getting some gameplay in. Just see would be a nice kind of mentality shift away from the stress of having to find work or trying to find something else, and then obviously the bereavement and everything else like that as well. Yeah, and it just sort of worked, you know. Like I still maintain that when I started it off, it was as a hobby, and I think that's one of the best mentalities to have, especially when you're starting off as well. Like when you started off, yes, you may think about it nowadays that, you know, Twitch could be a job or whatever else, but when you started off and it starts off as a hobby, I think it allows you to grow in a different manner as opposed to, you know, thinking from the get-go that yes, this is a business.
Yeah, I think with regards to it becoming a job, I think it only becomes that when you've got that kind of sustainable income. Yeah, like it's okay if you've got something else. Like if you've got a job on an actual main job, and Twitch is only kind of a side thing, and it's kind of supplementing your rent and your food and all of that, and it's allowing you to kind of live day by day and having a little bit of extra in your pocket while also playing games, while also hanging out with everyone in chat, growing your community, having fun, getting to know people. Then yeah, you could turn around and get a full-time job. Yeah, doing that before that kind of feels pointless. Like I have seen plenty of streamers over the last few years just saying I'm now a full-time streamer when there's no way it could be sustainable. Yeah, you know, when they don't have a second kind of income. But I would imagine you enjoy the aspect of the community probably as much as I do. I'm not a big kind of solo game player. I don't enjoy just sitting at the computer on my own, just playing a whole lot of games. Yeah, I'd rather have someone to talk to, hang out. It kind of makes it more enjoyable for me, more open, more. I don't know. I won't say intimate, but more of an experience that I get to add on to the gameplay itself. You know. Yes,
I definitely do, and I think like the past year and like all the time that we've been playing games together, I think it reflects very, very well for both of our communities on Twitch when we're streaming. Because you both of us, we play a lot of like multiplayer games, co-op games, and all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. And obviously all the stupid shit that we do in those games, you know, that's just part of the banter and everything else. But at the same time, I think there are some times as well when I do play like a lot of single player games. Like I know you've been playing Doom, and then you've been playing Wolcen and a few other games as well, solo. But ultimately, I think you prefer like the more multiplayer perspective. Whereas with me,
I do,
I don't mind playing single player games on stream. But I think that just depends on if the game is interesting enough. Having said that, I can't wait to play that dating game.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you seen my Steam library? I picked it up yesterday.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. So, with regards to the solo thing, it's not that I don't enjoy streaming solo player games. I find that when there's a game that has a lot of dialogue in it, Twitch chat tends to just disappear because you're just sitting there clicking as the dialogue goes from scene to scene. Yeah. I'd much prefer doing something that's more interactive, the chat's watching and having a laugh.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
More than anything else, you know.
I think that's also one of the reasons why
like Animal Crossing.
Why would you bring that up? John, I don't know what Animal Crossing actually is. I keep hearing that word, I keep hearing the name, but I don't actually know what that game is. Okay, so
I think it's a multiplayer game about animals trying to cross the road like a motorway while cars are going.
That's Frogger.
Really quickly. Oh, is it? Okay.
That's Frogger.
I don't know, dude. I've never done Animal Crossing, but I know some of the guys in my Discord are really excited. They're more excited for it than they are Doom Eternal. Which I find really weird.
I find that very weird as well, but funny at the same time as well.
Yeah.
But yes, I think in terms of like, games that we play and that we cover and the platforms that we're active on, I know when I started off on stream, it was primarily just Warframe. And then I think last year I kind of started branching out a lot more, and then I started doing a lot more variety as well. And I think for you, like primarily it's Warframe, which you cover on YouTube. But when it comes to streaming, you play like a variety of games now as well.
Yeah. So, I think with streaming, I think I do Warframe maybe once every 2 weeks. Yeah. Sometimes I could go 3 weeks without doing it. If there's an update, I'll cover it multiple times in a week. Yeah. But then I prefer to play different games on stream than on YouTube. I found that Twitch chat is much more open to the idea. Yeah. Of the content creator covering something away from the main game. Yeah. Well, especially when it comes to Warframe. I don't know about other communities. Whereas on YouTube, whenever you upload something that's not Warframe, it's initially disliked to hell because
Yeah,
of the simple reason it's not Warframe.
yeah.
You know, and then you upload Warframe videos and you get a lot of comments like, you should upload other content. So you upload other content, and then people go, "This isn't Warframe." You know,
It's
so it's
like a
it's kind of
catch-22 situation, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. But ultimately,
Pretty much.
I think having that sort of freedom to have, like, obviously in YouTube, you're just covering a Warframe side, and then obviously you've got a few random videos. Like, for example, when we played GTF or Monster Hunter World, where we got bullied by Rajang and all that kind of stuff, you know, like those kind of videos are always like interesting to watch as well, because it's all just like banter and all the kind of crazy shit that happens on stream. And then on Twitch, it, like, coming back to what you said earlier on, the interaction with the community, and then with also someone else that you're playing. Because I think when you're streaming like a single player game or whatever else on your own, you have a certain mentality for it, you have a certain method for it, and there's a certain play style for it. But as soon as you throw other people into the mix, that all goes to hell, because you know, everyone has a different type of play style, different mentality, what they're gonna do, you know. Or maybe someone's trying to team kill you, like me, for example, or even you.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, someone's the village idiot and runs into a rotor blade off a plane to see if it'll turn them into soup.
Dude, that was science. I had to see if that worked for science. That wasn't an accident. I literally went, I wonder if this is actually just scenery. Do you know when you're playing a game and you see something and you go, I wonder if that's just part of the kind of mission scenery, you know, to make the scene look better.
Yeah.
Or if it actually functions like you think it would function. So when I seen that propeller on the big airplane spinning round and round in Gears of War, my initial reaction was, oh, that's probably just scenery. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to just run up to it and see if they've actually bothered to code it killing you. And it did. It blended the crap out of me. Killed me straight away. So
it blended you so well. I couldn't even find your body parts. There was just a pool of blood on the ground. It was like, this is very visceral, to be fair.
You have to try these things. I'm not the only one that does that, though.
No,
right?
I do it as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all gamers have done it at some point where they go, I wonder if I jump into this big hole full of lava, will it set me on fire?
Exactly.
You know, or something like that.
You kind of have to poke at the game to see how far you can take it to break it. You know, I think that kind of makes it a lot more fun as well. But yeah. So, John, I've got a question for you. How did you come up with your, I guess, internet handle / gaming name? Like Tactical Potato.
Man. Oh, well, it was originally two different names, and then it eventually became this one.
Right.
So the original name was just the actual name of what the YouTube channel was, and that was one that I created, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. Before Spotify was a thing, YouTube was where I had all my music playlists.
Yeah.
And I remember creating an account, and they ask you what's your channel name, like what's your account name, and I just put in random words. It wasn't even a word. It was like Sordats, SORDATS. And that was it. I used it just for music playlists, and then I decided to do the YouTube thing, and I set it up as Potato Powered. Yeah. That was just a kind of I guess a piss take on me being Irish.
Yeah.
And the fact that everyone thinks that Irish people eat nothing but potatoes, and they're not entirely wrong. They're not entirely wrong. Like, I have a very, very high starchy diet.
Right.
But so it's basically you're powered by potatoes because you're Irish.
Yeah.
So I basically just done it like that, and then I started doing the Warframe videos, and then I decided I don't know. I think I got a few comments one day, or over the span of a while, saying that I wasn't very tactical in what I was doing in Warframe and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I remember thinking that I'd change it to Tactical Potato as a piss take.
Yeah.
So it was actually I took 2 months away from Warframe because I was heavily burnt out, and I stopped doing videos nearly completely. I think I'd done 2 videos that were non-Warframe related, and I took some time out and said I'll come back to it once the burnout was gone.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 2-3 months, and then I came back. But when I came back, I had revamped the whole channel from the artwork to the logo to the name, and for me it was like a fresh start.
Yeah.
And that was only when I had about 10 to 11,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So it was still pretty early days. So it wasn't really noticed. And there is still a few people who leave comments on my video. Wow, remember when you used to be called Tactical Potato?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If I could change it now, I wouldn't have potato in the name at all. I probably wouldn't have tactical in it either.
Yeah.
But
I
it's too
kind
late for that.
of, I guess I was a little bit lucky in the sense that my internet gaming name has been unique, that it's been the same for the past 17 years. So this was back when I was in India, because I grew up in India, right? And I didn't have a good PC living back in India. So I used to go to like a local gaming cafe. One of my friends from school, his uncle used to have a gaming cafe near my house. I used to go there and I used to play Unreal 99, Counter-Strike 1.6, Condition Zero, and a few other games as well like that. And in India, we get all sorts of weather. Like, we don't get necessarily snow where I was living in New Delhi, but it would get to like -4, and you know that was pretty cold for New Delhi. You wouldn't normally get that kind of weather. Then of course in summers it's like 50 degrees, and then we get monsoons and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, this was I think around September time, not September. I think this was like October, maybe November time, and the weather had just started changing into like, you know, winter, from monsoon onto winter. And I would basically ride my bicycle to where the gaming cafe was, because it was a little bit of a distance from my house, and then I'd spend like 3-4 hours there playing games or whatever else like that. And that's, I guess, how I got into gaming in the first place. But anyway, this was like, I think the first week when I went there, it was a fairly chilly day, but I was still wearing shorts at the same time, because overall the weather was kind of like, you can still get away with wearing a t-shirt and shorts because it was mostly still warm. Yeah. But that particular day, it was a little bit chilly. And I got to the place, tied my bike to the pole, and went up to the, you know, gaming cafe, and I was sitting there. And then, you know, in 1.6, you can change your username, and someone had like some weird username, which I don't even remember. And I wanted to change it to be something different and unique for myself. And I sat there for 10-15 minutes trying to figure out what I wanted my name to be, and I couldn't think of it. And then I just thought to myself, you know what? It's really, really chilly. My balls are really, really cold right now.
I was just about to say that.
It's like, it's really chilly. My balls are really, really cold. I can feel them shriveling up. I was like, oh, fuck it. Frozenballz. That's it. And that's it. Literally been called Frozenballz for the past 17 years of gaming.
I've now got this image of like the light bulb kind of dinging above you. I was just sitting there looking at the screen going, what should I call myself? At the same time as your mind's kind of going through the phases of, jeez, it's awful cold outside. Fucking hell, my balls are awful cold. Ding! Frozenballz.
to be fair, I think it's been unique enough that I haven't really seen that name in other games. So I always get that name in games, other than a couple of games where it's been taken. I think one of the reasons why I never got into World of Warcraft was because some little shit had stolen that name. That's why I never got into World of Warcraft as well.
Really?
Yeah, someone actually had that name.
My first World of Warcraft character was called Saggy Nuts.
I don't want to know the history about that one.
I literally had a warrior running around because I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't know anything. It was my first time in any kind of a fancy-based MMO.
Yeah.
So I was a warrior, but yet I was putting on any armor that I could equip. So I was running around in a wizard's dress.
Yeah.
With like a shield and a sword and things like that. And I was called Saggy Nuts, you know? So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
See, I always find it funny because despite me being 30 years old, I quite often on stream or in general, like, have the humor of a child sometimes. And I think it's fine as long as you're an adult when you need to be, but it's fine to have that kind of childish humor as well, because it has its own sort of appeal to other people and, you know, I guess in certain circles. But yeah, you have to have a laugh, you know. If you don't, then it's just kind of like,
exactly.
Life would be so boring if you couldn't laugh at yourself or at other people too.
If you can't laugh at yourself, then who can you laugh at? Kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been pretty fun, man. Like, having played all these games and being able to see that I've got that name, Frozenballz. And it's always been unique. And I've actually had really weird scenarios where I remember I was playing Global Agenda when that was a thing. And there's this person who came in to chat and he just goes, Frozenballz, do you play Unreal Tournament? Do you do this? Have you played this game before? I was like, yeah, I've played that. It's like, did you play as like a certain character? I can't remember now what he said. I was like, yeah. And that's when I recognized that this was a friend from India who had met, like, he used to live actually quite close to where I used to live in India as well. And we used to go to the same gaming cafe. So it was a friend of mine who I'd met online by chance. And I was like, holy shit, this is such a small world to meet that person out of all the people that you have online as well. You know what I mean? It was really, really crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Like, again, for this particular episode, it was just mostly going to be like an introduction and just talk about all the stuff that we're doing. And
what kind of background of stuff and that as well.
Yeah. But in the future, obviously, for more episodes for this podcast, we have like a bunch of different episodes, like, well, not episodes, but topics that I would like to kind of cover as well, like content creation is one of them. And then obviously growing up, you know, having different, like me being Indian, growing up in India and then coming to the UK versus you growing up like 100 years ago in Ireland, you know.
Oh, geez, yeah, I still remember the famine like it was yesterday.
But yeah, I think that, you know, it'll be really interesting to see when we start to cover those topics about how, you know, it affected us as well growing up, and like what were you kind of like in school, all your favorite TV shows and movies. And I guess this is also a good way for the communities that we have to kind of get to know us as well better. Like, because I feel like these kind of conversations don't necessarily happen on Twitch as often or as in depth, I suppose, because, you know, Twitch is based, the Twitch chat is like someone who has ADHD. They can't concentrate on a topic for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's the perfect description.
Yeah, so a podcast is kind of a nice long form method of being able to kind of expand on those topics and, you know, have those kind of discussions as well. So yeah, obviously the idea is also to potentially get other guests on the show as well. And I've actually, you know, I was thinking that it would be really, really interesting to have people from different walks of life, people in the games industry, people in other industries, you know, being able to talk about all their experiences as well and everything else as well. So it should be interesting. Have you ever played D&D, for example?
No, that's one aspect. Like growing up in Ireland, there wasn't a lot you could do. So there's not many outlets of things that you will see in other countries. There was no D&D. That's one thing that I think you would have been bullied in Ireland if there had been D&D back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the small village that I grew up in, there was only two things you could do: drink or play football. You know, that was,
well, shit.
That's not even an understatement. Like that, there was literally nothing to do. There was two different groups of people: the people who played football and the people that didn't.
Yeah.
The people that didn't spent more time drinking in the pubs than the ones who did, because the ones who did were playing football. So no D&D. It kind of feels weird, like when I go to conventions or you hear like all the other gamers talking about D&D and all the aspects of it, and for me it's like it may as well be hieroglyphics. Do you know what I mean?
I'm the same.
I don't understand one little bit about it.
I'm the same. Like, you know what, growing up in India, we didn't have D&D there. It wasn't a big thing. But for example, one of my friends, Bronze Girl, she's massive into like D&D. Like I'm talking about, she's played it. She's you know, what's the word? DM, I don't know, Game Master, I guess GM, yeah.
Game Master,
She's done all of that for D&D. She's had her own, like, she's been on her own shows and all that kind of stuff as well. And it's always interesting because I love hearing about it, but as someone who's never played it, I have literally no idea what people are talking about when they talk about D&D, which is why, and I feel because growing up it wasn't a big thing for me, I wasn't able to kind of, you know, get involved in it. It's the same as Pokemon. Like, I didn't play Pokemon growing up because I didn't have a console for the longest period of time. The only console I had was the Sega Mega Drive and an Atari before that. So
they had a Master System. That's bullshit.
So, I mean,
it's terrible.
I think that's also appropriate based on the age as well, you know? So, like, Sega Mega Drive was, you know, appropriate for my age group, age range, and then Master System for yours.
No. I had my younger cousin. I remember my parents kind of told me that they were getting me a game console.
Yeah.
And my younger cousin, who's, I don't know, he's about 8-9 years younger than me, was just after getting the Mega Drive. And the Mega Drive was only after coming out for the first time. And I remember my parents told me they were getting me a Sega computer. And I was like, oh yes, they're going to give me the Mega Drive. Telling all my friends to get me the Mega Drive.
Yeah.
Christmas came. And I opened the box and it was a Master System, and I was absolutely disgusted. I remember my dad looking at me going, well, what do you think of that? And I couldn't answer him. You know? And I was like, thanks. You know, there was only one game for it. It was like a Sonic game, was the only game we had for it.
Yeah.
You know? Cousin was playing FIFA. I was playing Sonic. No, not FIFA. My cousin was playing. God, what was he playing? What was the? Oh, it was a side-scrolling kind of beat 'em up one.
Double Dragon.
Double Dragon. It could have been Double Dragon or Streets of Rage or one of those. You know.
Well, it wasn't Golden Axe, was it?
No, it could have been Golden Axe as well. Golden Axe was awesome.
Yeah, I remember. Golden Axe.
I don't know. I remember he was playing those, and I was playing bloody Sonic. All I could do was Sonic, nothing else. I hate a bloody guy. I end up playing it that much that I end up hating that version of it.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, it's been a good episode, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up with that one for this particular episode. In the next episode, we'll look at content creation, I suppose, because I think that would be an interesting topic, considering both of us are content creators, and would be an interesting thing for people to hear about and all that kind of stuff as well. Cheers for joining, man. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot.
Do you want to plug your socials?
No.
Okay. Well, well, damn it. Well, if he doesn't want to do it, I'll do it.
You can plug yours. I'm not. I don't get. Well, it's not that I don't get it. I kind of always felt weird. You know what? Follow me on this and follow me on that. That's always felt really weird for me. You know.
Well, I understand what you're saying. And here's my reasoning about why I think it's important for us to do it as well, is because I just want to plug my socials, basically, because I post a lot of shit posting on Twitter and pictures of food and pictures of cats and dogs. And I think it's important that people see the pictures of food, most importantly, really. Like how I help you out with all the pictures of all the steak and everything else, considering you're a vegan now, right?
Fuck you.
I swear to God, if we ever actually, we'll probably have someone who's vegan who's listening. He's like, he's being offensive. I don't like this.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cheers, man. In that case, it's been a pretty good one. And I guess I'll see the rest of you people in the next episode of the Balls Deep podcast.